Okay, good morning, everybody. As it says on the slide, it is so nice to be here. And let's see if this is going to play ball. Maybe there are too many plants in the way. Ecology is getting involved. Oh, yeah, here we are. Okay, great. Was that you clicking that? Okay. Do you want a laptop here? It might. Well, I'll get you. I'll point, yeah. Okay, I was going to do a seamless transition and say it's so nice to be here and not here, which is where I spend a lot of my time. And as we heard from Indy yesterday, the stakes feel so high right now. And I want to be clear that the reason that the stakes are so high right now is because of culture. So we're going to hear a lot over the next few days about all the incredible things we can do with culture. But I thought it was important to acknowledge that culture is why we are facing all these problems today. And that is because the systemic crises we're seeing are based in a set of paradigms and a set of mindsets which are the foundation for the problems that we're facing. So in a way, we can think of culture as soil. It is the soil from which our economy, our politics, our technology grow. And for a long time in my career, this was not how I thought about the work with culture. So I have worked making culture, creating cultural infrastructure, building movements. And during that time, I would have said for a long time that what I was doing was telling stories that mobilize action on nature and climate. But over the last 5 years, I see the work differently now. I see the work as being about reorienting the foundational stories that are causing the crises that we're facing today. And I'm not alone in this. So over the last few years, a lot of people have been coming to us in different ways, different kinds of people asking this question about, does the work need to be going deeper? Do we need to be thinking about culture change in a deeper way? And so we listened and have just been on this 2-year journey where we have tried to understand how do you do ontological shift? If you're going to get up in the morning and want to focus on changing deep paradigms, what do you actually do? So we have been exploring terrains like this. Some of these terms might be familiar to you. It has been quite the journey. And where we've got to is that deep narrative is more like a habit than a belief. So these are the things that we don't even know that we think. They sit deeply under the surface, like an unconscious bedrock. And just to give you a couple of deep narratives, to give you a sense of the terrain, I'm sure these will be ones that are familiar to you, but this is what we're talking about when we're talking about what deep narrative is. So one of the things we have found, and a metaphor we've found really helpful that was suggested to us by the climate justice campaigner Suzanne Dhaliwal, was that deep narratives are like an undertow, and that if we don't work at their level, the deep narrative of the status quo will constantly be pulling us back from the destinations we seek. So you might have a brilliant campaign or a great bit of work that seems to change something, but then we keep getting pulled back. And that's why it's so important that we really start to understand how to work at this level. So one of the models that we found really helpful as we're thinking about the doing of this work is a model we've borrowed from anthropology called enculturation. We like this model because one of the things it reflects is the fact that the ways deep narratives are formed and are enacted are not things that just happen inside of us. It happens all around us. So it is ecological, it is distributed, it is relational. And enculturation as a model really represents that. So what we have done is built out these different zones of where we can shift the conditions for deep narrative. I'm not going to run through them all now. They are there. Many of us will be coming from the zone which we have called told. But the important thing to note is that deep narrative formation and enactment happens across all of these zones. We then created a framework. We've done this to help people doing the work or who want to do the work start to locate it. Again, I will share all this with you. I'm trying to do ontological shift in like 2.5 minutes, so it's very fast. I am aware. If we move on to the next slide. And what this really is an invitation for us all to get muddy, for us all to spend time in the substrate, in the soil of the narratives that we are working in. So to get muddy in the context of your own work, what are the deep narratives that your work is engaging with? To get muddy in the context of, are there ways that we can bring more deep narrative coherence to the work that we're all doing? And to get muddy with us in our questions about what does it mean to grow this work which is generational change. Because all of us in this room will be working with culture in maybe different ways to make change. Some of us will be doing work that is about dismantling the extractive systems that we're in. Some of us will be doing work that is about building emerging life-giving systems. And I guess my hope is that wherever you situate your culture work on this spectrum, if we can all start to work with deep narrative more intentionally, then this work will be greater than the sum of its parts, and we'll all be contributing to this deep paradigm change. So I'm going to run a lunchtime session on this so we can have more than like 5 minutes on ontological shift. But thank you all.